Hello everybody, today I'll be teaching you how to solve the 2x2 Rubik's Cube. So now that we have the cube scrambled up, we can begin with the first step. So in the first step, we want to make the whole white color with all of these set colors matching. So for example, this one is blue and this one is white. So this piece also has to be blue and white. So this is the same thing that has to happen with these other colors that you will see eventually. Now we want to look at any white corner piece. So in this case, we can look at this one, and this one has the color white, blue, and red. So we can just pick any of the two colors with white. So it's either we pick red and white or blue and white. So now I'll just pick a random one, and I'll pick blue and white. Now we want to find another corner piece that also has blue and white. So it's here, and we want this piece to come here because it's blue and white, so we want it to fit here. We want to put the piece that we want to go in the slot underneath it. So we want this piece to go into this slot, and we'll just put it underneath, and we do an algorithm: R prime, D prime, R, D, 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 until we get this piece into this slot correctly with these two blue colors matching and these two white colors matching. So now we can do the same thing for the next piece. We can turn it to either this side or this side, and I'll just choose this side. So once again, we can do the same thing. We can look at these two colors. We have white and orange. So we can find the other piece with white and orange, and it's here. So we can put it underneath of where we want it to go. So we can just then do the same algorithm: R prime, D prime, R, D. So this time we're a bit luckier. I just need one of those algorithms to fit it in to match these two colors again. Now we will move on with the last piece, which is green and white, and it's really underneath here, so we don't really have to do anything. But if you get it like here or maybe here, you can just turn it to put it underneath, and then you do the same algorithm again: R prime, D prime, R, D. And if you're lucky, you can just get it in like me with just one step. If not, you can just repeat it until you realize that you can have this piece and complete the white face with all these side colors matching. And if you notice that if you do not have these side colors matching, then I recommend you mess up the cube and just retry it again as you have done it incorrectly. So now we can just move on with the second step. So in the second step, what we want to do is to make the whole of the yellow face. But when we make the yellow face, we don't have to make these side colors here. So what we want to do is to see if there's any piece that is facing the top solved. Now we have one of these pieces here that is facing the top. So we can just put it on the top left hand corner like this of the piece that is already solved. And then we'll notice that this one is unsolved, and this will be the first one that we will solve, as it's at the top right hand corner, while this solved piece is at the top left hand corner. And we'll use the same algorithm that we did for these bottom corners again, and it is R prime, D prime, R, D, 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 and do the same thing until you get these two yellow colors matching. You might notice that the bottom has been messed up, but that's okay because this is supposed to happen. And after you finish making all the yellow colors, then the bottom will be fixed. So after you finish this piece, you don't want to change face because that will mess up the cube. You just keep the same face. And what you want to do is to just turn the top layer so that the piece that you want to solve once again is put at the top right hand corner. And we do the same algorithm again: R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D. And then when you get this piece into place, you can just keep the same face again and you turn it to the next one. So put it at the top right hand corner, and then you solve the piece again with the same algorithm. R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D. And then, just like what I said earlier, you will notice that the bottom is back to normal, and the top face is all yellow now. Okay, so if you get this case when you don't have any of these yellow pieces facing the top, you can just start from anywhere, and then you can just do the algorithm. R prime, D prime, R, D, 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 until the yellow color is facing the top. Now you do the same thing and you keep the same face. You only turn the top layer and you move it to the next one to solve the next piece and put it on the top right hand corner. You also want to make sure that this piece at the top left hand corner has its yellow color facing the top. So you do the same algorithm again. R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D, until this piece is put into place. Now we can move to the next piece again, and then we put this at the top right hand corner and do the same algorithm again. R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D. Now we keep the same face and just move the top layer, top right hand corner, and we do the same algorithm again. R prime, D prime, R, D, 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 until you notice that all the yellow pieces are facing the top, and then you get the same situation that I showed you earlier. Okay, so now we can move on with the last step. But for this step, there's two cases, and you will more commonly come across this case whereby you have like this side of the cube already solved with the bottom, but it's only these two pieces that need to be swapped such that they're solved. So in this case, you just hold the solved side to your left, and then you do this algorithm. R, U, R prime, U prime, R prime, F, R2, U prime, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, F prime, and you will notice that the cube will be solved. Okay, so this is the second case that you will not see that often, but you will still have a chance of getting this case. So you just have to learn it in case. And in this case, these two pieces diagonally across have to be swapped. So what you want to do is just hold the cube from any face, and then you just do this algorithm. F, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, F prime, R, U, R prime, U prime, R prime, F, R, F prime, and your cube will be solved. So this ends my tutorial on how to solve a 2x2 Rubik's Cube. I hope this has helped you to solve your cube. Remember to leave a like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video.